In this video, we're going to learn about percent increase and decrease. Determine the new amounts given the percent change. Feel free to use your calculator. Make sure you write down what you put in your calculator. Okay. So here, notice we're finding 150 is increased by 12%. What is the new amount? Well, we could find 12% of 150, add that on to 150, and that would be our result. So that's one way to think of it, but we learned about multiplicative factors, and if something is increased by 12%, the new amount is 112% of the old amount. Okay, so we can take the old amount, 150, and now we're going to multiply by the multiplicative factor. I'll write this as a fraction, 112 over 100. Let's see what this is. 150 times 112 over 100, and the new amount is 168. Okay, notice that makes sense. It increased, so it should go up. It went from 150 to 168. Now we have 3,000 is decreased by 27.5%. What's the new amount? So first let's find our percent. So since it's decreased, we subtract. Oops, I left off the 0.5 there. Okay. Now this difference, 100 minus 27.5, gives us 72.5%. Okay, so our new amount is 3,000 times the multiplicative factor, which will be 72.5 over 100. Okay, put this in the calculator. 3 times 72.5 divided by 100. So 2,175. 1,000 is decreased by 50%. The resulting amount is then increased by 50%. What is the new amount? Okay, so it may be tempting to think that if you decrease by 50% and then increase by 50%, you get back to where you started. But let's see what happens. We're going to do these in two steps. So we have 1,000. Now decreasing by 50% means subtracting 50% or finding 50% of 1,000. So 50% is that one, it's halfway. So when you subtract, you get the same amount. So our first step, we want 50% of 1,000 times 50 divided by 100. So now our new amount is half of 1,000, which is 500. Now it says the resulting amount is then increased by 50%. Well, increasing by 50%, we're going to take 100% plus 50% is 150%. So we're going to take 500 and multiply by 150 over 100. Find 150% of 500. So we have 500 times 150 divided by 100, and we get $750. Okay, so I don't know why I made these dollars. We just had 1,000. I must be thinking in money. But notice we don't get back to 1,000, and the reason is here we had a larger amount, $1,000, decreased by 50%. So the decrease took off 500. But when we increased 500 by 50%, half of 500 is only 250. So remember, percents are always relative to the amounts, and here, when you perform a decrease and then an increase, the amount changes along the way, so it's not, you can't just add up the decrease and increase percent. Okay, 600 is doubled. What is the new amount? What is the corresponding percent increase? Okay, well, pretty easy to double something. if 600 is doubled, we're going to multiply it by 2. And we have 1200 is the new amount. Now, what does this correspond to in terms of a percent increase? So we could think of it as 2 is our multiplicative factor. And we have 100% plus some other percent needs to equal 2 as a percent is 200%. So notice that means that we must have added on another 100% to get 200%. So the percent increase is 100%. Okay? So you may think, well, when I multiply 2, I'm finding 200%. So you are finding 200%, but the corresponding increase, remember you have to include the original amount plus the increase would just be 100%. Okay? 500 is decreased by half. What is the new amount? Well, we can take 500, and if we decrease it by 1/2, we're finding 1/2 of 500, which is 250. So 250 is our new amount. What is the corresponding percent decrease? Well, that means, we actually saw one like this at C, but let's look at it again. We had 100% and we subtracted some amount and we get something equal to 1/2. Okay, so what is 1/2 as a percent? Well, 1/2 is the same as 50 over 100, which is 50%. So we must have subtracted 50% from 100% to get 50%. Okay, so if it's decreased by half, the corresponding percent decrease is 50%.